AITA for telling my ex's new GF, who has cancer, about his infidelity. My ex, 30M, and I, 27F, broke up 2 years ago after dating for 5 years. He was unemployed at the time and seemed like he was going through some type of crisis as he had just turned 30 leading up to the breakup. He became very distant and weird with me, so I called him out on his behavior. He told me that he needed to step back from the relationship as he felt unaccomplished and, at that point in his life, he didn't see a future with me because he felt like he couldn't provide for me. I didn't want to break up as I thought this was something we could work onto together, but he insisted this was for the best, so I reluctantly agreed. He prefaced it as more of a break than a breakup because he did want to get back together once he got his shit together. As the months passed, I moved back in with my parents, got a new job, and moved into my own apartment. At this point a year had passed, we kept in contact regularly and would see each other almost weekly. A bit after the year passed, I lost my grandmother to cancer and was devastated as I had never experienced loss like this before. I leaned on family, friends, and my ex. When the funeral came around, I asked my ex if he could accompany me and he agreed. The morning of the funeral, as I was waiting for him to pick me up, he canceled last minute saying he caught COVID. I was upset but let it be. A few weeks later, I began going over the situation with him to myself. Over a year had passed and I didn't see a change with him. When we would talk, he was always doing the same stuff he was doing before we broke up. Still jobless, still playing video games all the time, still spending a ton of money. His parents are wealthy and pay for everything for him. I was able to do much more for myself, without it being a goal of mine, during the same time. So I decided in that moment, I didn't want to get back into a relationship with him. I called him and explained to him that I was no longer interested in working things out, that I wanted to move on to the next chapter of my life. He was very upset and begged for me to at least talk about it in person. I didn't want to but agreed because I saw no harm in it. Several months passed and we still didn't meet up because he would always cancel at the last minute. I got to the point where I didn't really care to talk in person because I was over the situation. About a month ago, I helped out a friend at a convention that she was vending at. I wasn't aware that he was still following some of my friends on IG, so he saw when she posted her booth on her story and ended up showing up unannounced to talk to me. I was upset but didn't want to cause a scene, so I stepped outside to talk him. While we were outside he explained to me that he was in a weird position and was trying to get out of it. Buckle up because I still can't wrap my head around this bullshit he spilled. He explained that he rekindled an old friendship with this girl from high school, let's call her Alex, after we broke up. Alex began hanging out with him and his friends Devin and James. At some point, Alex and James thought it would be a good idea to move into an apartment. They moved in together in January. He claimed that at some point James had a family emergency and couldn't afford rent anymore, so he moved out, leaving my ex and Alex living on their own. Around late March, early April, Alex began feeling sick and was diagnosed with cancer, don't remember what type. He said that her family doesn't live closer, so he sorta became her caregiver. He would administer her medicine and drive her to chemo. During his story, I asked if he and Alex were romantically involved because this sounded extremely personal. I have known this man for about 7 years at this point and I know he would have never done this for his other friends who he's extremely close to. I even pointed it out to him and he agreed but explained it was a special circumstance and they were not involved in that way at all. He then began to tell me that he wants out of the situation because he didn't sign up for but feels terrible leaving her since she has no one close by. In the same breath, he told me that he also wants to focus on us getting back together and finally settling down. I told him that I was sorry he was going through that but I didn't believe any of it, even the part of this girl having cancer, it just didn't sit right, and that I had already made up my mind about not wanting to get back with him. We left it at that and I went about my day. All of this sat with me for a long time. My profession involves investigating, won't go into more detail. I have never used my work for personal gain, but with all of this, I decided I could make an exception due to the circumstance. Long story short, after some sleuthing and, shamefully, hacking his social media, I found out the truth. He and Alex were in a relationship, they indeed lived together, they began dating days after he and I broke up, and he was cheating on me with her for at least 6 months. I was obviously angry but decided to leave it alone. I talked to my mom about it and she said that I should contact the GF just so she knows and to find out if she actually has cancer because we really didn't believe it and I wasn't able to find that part out. Before reaching out to her, I called up my ex because I wanted him to know that I knew. He denied until I was able to give him full detail of everything I knew. He confessed and apologized. Then I reached out to the GF and explained what was happening, shared screenshots of texts, tickets, hotel reservations, everything under the damn sun. At first she thought I was making it up but then realized I was being truthful. After everything, I found out that she indeed does have cancer and her treatment had failed and she was basically dying. I apologized as I'm sure that was the last thing she wanted to hear, but I didn't believe anything he told me, so I didn't think she was actually sick. A few days later, I was recount this insane turn of events to some of my friends and they told me that I was an a-hole for messaging her. They said that give her state this could make her more sick and if she ends up worse, it would somehow be on me. I feel terrible, but I also feel like I would want to know if I were in her shoes. I wouldn't want to spend my last days with someone like that, but that's me. AITA?